Yeah, my name is Julius. I'm working at Nextcloud as a software engineer. And yeah, like on the past Cool Days or Collabora conferences, I always showed off like what we do as Nextcloud and what kind of new fancy features we have. I thought this time would be a good opportunity to talk a bit more on the technical side of how we integrate and how we make those features working together with Collabora. But maybe for those that aren't aware of what Nextcloud is, we call ourselves a content collaboration platform. It all started off as a classical enterprise file sync and share solution. So you can upload files, edit them, work on them together. But we extended that further with also video conferencing group resolutions. Yeah. So you can see we have Collabora integrated right into the Nextcloud user interface. You can open your files, edit them there, all you would expect. But the interesting part is when it comes to like how we interact between Nextcloud and Collabora. So most of you might be aware that post messages are kind of the way to go there. Collabora Online is usually running in an iframe in the web. In the web browser basically, and post message are kind of the browser standard way to communicate there. So there would be two directions. On the one hand, from the Nextcloud perspective, like the parent frame, we can listen for messages that are coming in from the child iframes, like Collabora in that case, or we can send post messages from Nextcloud to Collabora. So it's like a two-channel communication there. So to start off with, basically going to showcase a few examples of how we integrate and what kind of post messages we use for that. The first one is kind of nice because we can actually extend the Collabora user interface without actually implementing something in Collabora directly. There's the insert button post message, and we make use of that for a feature called local editing, where the user can just click on that button and then we interact with our desktop client and open the file locally on the user's device. This is kind of a feature that, of course, you lack the collaboration aspect then. But for some scenarios where it's like an obscure macro that only runs in their desktop application, it might sometimes still be useful. Next one, I think there was already a presentation about that, is the Zotero integration. So this is quite nice because we have Collabora itself doesn't have a user preferences management. In the Nextcloud, we have a dedicated settings section for each user where they can easily configure their API key for Zotero, for example. And that we basically provide back to Collabora through the WOPI check file info endpoint. And to make it even easier, if the user hasn't set up an API key, then we basically get a post message from Collabora and then we can present them with a dialog to just enter it right away without ever leaving the editing session. Mentions is also a new feature that we worked on together with Collabora on recently. So you can mention people in your documents. They will get then a notification about that. And for that, there would be two post messages relevant. The UI mention is something that Collabora emits in order to list the users that should be offered in the user interface. So Collabora doesn't know about like the LDAP directory that is linked to Nextcloud, for example. So for that, Collabora sends this UI mention message, and then on the Nextcloud side, we can basically provide Collabora with the list of available users there. And then once the mention is inserted on the Collabora side, Nextcloud gets aware of that this action has happened by the action mention. Additions to that, the embedding of the mention is actually a link. In Nextcloud, every user has a profile page. We can just link to that. And with that, you can basically click the link to the mentioned user and then can continue start a chat with that mentioned user right away. And if you're looking into implementing this, I'd highly recommend to prefetch mentions and also have caching layers involved, because Otherwise, that would kind of lead to a bad user experience when you have to wait for an API request on every attempt to mention a user first. Then the next thing that we actually released with our latest major release is something we call the Smart Picker. Maybe I'm not sure if I can use the cursors as well, just to show you a bit what it looks like, because the name without seeing the user interface might not be that obvious. So it is actually an interface that lets the user pick different sources. You can see it can be a GitHub issue, can be a GIF link, a file from Nextcloud, GitLab, Mastodon, different sources. And what happens if you pick that? This would be another example. We also have a picker for text templates, so you can define your own text snippets that you regularly use. And then if you select that, we basically just insert that into Nextcloud, into Collabora, into the document. And maybe to get back to that, so there is a new entry added to the menu bar in your Office UI, and when that is triggered, Nextcloud gets a message, and we can show the picker and let the user pick whatever they'd like. And then we can, depending on the actual result of the picker, we can decide if we want to just insert plain text into the document or even rich text, or we can put a link through the existing post messages that have already been there. And in addition, there is also the link previews now supported in Collabora Online, which is a post message that allows you to get this nice previews on when the user moves cursor into a hyperlink. Yeah, just for reference, all our code is open source, available on GitHub. If anyone is interested in that, and the post-message API documentation of Collabora, of course, also provides a decent summary of all of that. And that would be all from my side. If you have questions, I'm still around here, and can also drop me a mail. Thanks.